This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of their affiliated organizations.
Welcome back, everybody, to Ready to Connect. I'm Lisa.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Ryan.
And today we're going to delve into our series of the Haunted USA, and we're focusing our attention to the Mid-Atlantic states. And we each took a state that we were kind of like attached to a little bit or curious about, and again cast our wide net to find different hauntings and things that we thought would be interesting to chat about. And some of them we might have a personal experience with. So can't wait to get into that. But before we begin, Brian, what were you up to this past weekend?
That's a good question.
This past week?
Yeah. Well, not too much really, just kind of laying low, especially because we had a snowstorm. So that was fun. But yeah, something interesting that happened the other day. I was out going to the store and I was gonna go get ice cream, and so this is gonna sound like a weird story, but anyway, so I was deciding at first to go to a store that's on my way home, and I was like, okay, yeah, I could get ice cream there, but then I heard Spirit say, no, go to the store that's farther because you might actually get a deal there. And I feel like that was my grandmother because she was always about getting a deal, and so she's like, no, go to the one that's farther. And I was like, okay, it's kind of out of the way, but all right, I'll go. So just to, just for curiosity's sake. So I went to the store that was out of the way and got ice cream on sale. So I actually saved a couple dollars, but still, I was like, okay, cool. I could get like two for the price as one, if I went to the store that was on the way. So I was like, thank you. So, because I remember, when I was taking one of your classes, that it's like if you follow the guidance that that you hear, that sometimes life is easier. And I'm like, even going to the store, it was a little easier this time. Yes, I went
Save
out
you
of the
some
way,
money.
but I saved some money, and it's appreciated. I got two ice creams instead of
I was
one.
gonna say you can get double the amount for the same price, right?
Yeah,
Why not?
yeah. So, so yeah, that was a slight adventure.
That's the move I would make. Instead of saving like the, $3, $5, I'm like, okay, I can get two.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the snowstorm. So this past weekend, my husband and I drove through the snow to my brother's house. We had a wonderful, my niece didn't make it down, but we were able to get together as a family, and we had a wonderful time playing games, being snowed in over there for a while, and just being together as family. Um, so much so we decided that once a month we're going to do a family game gathering
Oh,
time.
nice.
So that'll be fun. But we had the long weekend. My husband had off on Monday. So we decided to go up just on a lark. We made reservations at a historic inn, the Inn on Boltwood in Amherst. Um, and we went up there overnight. And it's this really, really cool historic inn, big fireplace and a lounge library, which, I love. Great restaurant, good food, wonderful room. Our room had a fireplace to it, and we just a nice night away, a good meal. Um, got to read by the fire in a historic, and I always love that kind of vibe and that feel. Um, and we did a little poking around East Hampton and Northampton on our way up and our way back. Um, and it was just a kind of a neat little getaway. I don't know. I love to be in inns when there's snow outside, the fire's going. I don't know. I just love that cozy vibe feel. I'll go up in the ski areas and stuff like that, and maybe I don't ski. I'll just stay by the inn, by the fire. That's my vibe. So we had a nice little, time away. I really enjoyed that, and the inn on Boltwood was lovely, and the people were very nice. Our breakfast was unbelievable.
Hmm.
We were so well taken care of. The food was so good. A lot of it farm to table, all of it farm to table. It was really lovely. Yeah, really lovely. What about you, Heather?
I took advantage of the wonderful snow. There's something about snow. I think it's called snow dampening, where like that, where everything just kind of, I don't know, the sound is taken down, like everything's just kind of dampened and like everything's quiet. I don't know really how to explain it. I think it's a scientific theory as well, like what the snow does when it, as it's snowing, like how it absorbs all the sound waves, so it makes your whole world quieter. So just kind of took advantage of the fact that it was snowing and rest and relax and ground. It's quite lovely just to chill out.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, yeah.
For sure.
Well, get right into our content. Do you want to start? Go down the coast. You want to do it that way?
Sure.
You want to
Sure.
start first, Heather, or you want me to start? Okay.
No, you start. Go ahead.
Well, we'll start with New York, and then we'll go down the coast to New Jersey and Pennsylvania. But
Perfect.
I actually am going to talk about three different locations. One, I'm originally from Long Island, New York. That's kind of where I grew up most of my childhood. It wasn't where I was born, but it's where I grew up most of my time was in Long Island, New York. And of course, the most famous haunting on Long Island, New York, books were written about it, a movie was made about it, was the Amityville Horror House. It was sort of like that Conjuring house we talked about in the last podcast. I'm sure you've heard of it. It was a house that was built in 1920s, and it what happened there was a man named Ron DeFeo Jr. He murdered six members of his family in 1974 in that house. Um, so that was a very tragic thing that happened in the house. Um, so that happened in 1974. Obviously, he was arrested and incarcerated. So the house was then sold to a new family, the Lutz family, in 1975. So this new family moves in a year later and reports loads and loads of paranormal activity, visions, bad smells, creepy feelings, even green slime and demonic figures were reported. Um, it was investigated by lots of different people. Even Ed and Lorraine Warren did some investigating there. And what's interesting is that most of the investigators said that they didn't sense anything, didn't get anything. Lorraine Warren is quoted as saying it was the closest she's ever been to hell. So there was a little, I guess, controversy or a little. It wasn't, the same as far as reporting is. Many, many people believe that the Lutz family exaggerated and fabricated the stories for fame and for money. And years later, I guess a son of the Lutz family came out and said that it was sort of fabricated. A lot of things were exaggerated. It really makes you wonder. The So much of that you can go and see a lot about that, how it was fabricated. MGM did a documentary on the Amityville Horror House called Amityville an Origin Story, where a lot of that is kind of brought to light. So that was kind of interesting too to check out. As a Long Island person, of course, we would drive by the Amityville Horror House because, I'm a cusp baby boomer Gen Xer. So, growing up in the 70s, you drive by the Amityville Horror House because it was happening during the time that we were like teenagers and stuff like that, or young people, and you'd hear about it. And of course, the movie came out and stuff like that. But I have to say, I don't think there was major hauntings with green slime and demonic figures. I do think because there was death there, that probably was some energy in that house, tragic energy. I do think that maybe there was some of the people who were killed that might have hung around initially, and they might have had some experiences, but I don't think it was to the extent of which the movie and the book um, portrayed. That's just my own opinion. I don't know if you've heard about that, if you have any opinions about any of that at all, either one of you.
I've heard of it, but I find it so fascinating that they were saying about slime. Like, I don't know, I just keep thinking about that. I don't
Thinking
Yeah,
about,
where was the slime? Like, was it dripping down the walls?
like
Like,
is this
I
like
think so.
Ghostbusters? Like what?
Yeah, it sounded like Ghostbusters, right? Yeah, I think skipping down the slide.
Yeah.
You know, um, I think images of demonic pigs flying outside windows, from what I can remember,
Oh,
and things like that.
yep.
Uh, but when a member of the of that family comes out saying, "Yeah, it was fabricated,"
Mm,
you have to really wonder, if you're taking something so tragic and then trying to benefit from it. I don't know, there's something really, if there's anything creepy about the house, it's that to
yeah.
me. The house since has been refurbished. It doesn't look like it used to look. They took out the moon windows, the half moon windows that were up in the attic. And I think they actually even changed the address of it because too many people, ghost seekers were invading private property. Um,
Mm,
and actually, every family that's lived in the house since has never reported any problems. So that gives you a kind of idea that maybe there was a little bit of that leftover energy from the murders, but I don't know if it's a demonic house kind of thing. But growing up on Long Island, that was always a legend. Um, so that was one thing I just wanted to bring up, especially since we talked about the Conjuring house, which is been proven to be quite haunted.
mhm.
Um, but the Amityville Horror House, I don't know. The only outlier was Lorraine Warren having that comment. So uh I have been though. Yes.
I was wondering, are people claiming these hauntings are residual, or are they claiming that they're intelligent, where they're actually interacting
Mm.
They were
with everyone, or is it just residual energy that doesn't interact with anybody?
That's a good question.
I think it was more recounted as being demonic, so it must be interacting.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah.
They were saying it was like I can only think, and we talked about this last podcast, how none of us really watch horror flicks, but do you know those horror flicks where the house comes alive and does things? That's the feeling you would get from it when you
Mm.
would hear these stories. I've never been into the house, only done the thrill seeker drive by, there it is kind of thing and keep going. Um, I don't know. I, I just think I think most likely there was spiritual energy hanging around after the murders, but once those spirits have kind of dissipated, frost or whatever, um, that that kind of would have tamped down. Maybe that's what they experienced, but I think it was exaggerated, even fabricated. I mean, green slime, flying pigs out your window. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a
Hey,
little.
who are we to say it didn't happen? But we'll put this in the maybe it happened, maybe it didn't happen category.
Well, I think there were some things that happened, but when a member of that family comes out and said, "Yeah, we fabricated it," you have to
Mm.
put it under,
Yeah,
okay, green slime
debunked.
and flying pigs probably didn't happen. I don't know.
Unless
I
it,
will say,
unless the pigs were jumping.
yeah, yeah. So we're gonna go from Long Island up a little bit north of the city, up a little bit north of the city. To Sleepy Hollow. Now, I told you about a friend of mine. We go on these girlfriend weekends, and she was the one that was with me up in the Berkshires that got shoved when we went to the Edith Wharton house. Well, we also took a trip down to Sleepy Hollow. Our birthdays happen to be in October, both of ours, so we tend to do October trips. So it's always around Halloween time. So we went to Sleepy Hollow. And as always, we found a ghost walk or a ghost hunt to do, or a haunted place to visit. And we went to the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, which is a haunted cemetery. And we did the ghost walk there. And I'm going to tell you, quite honestly, I didn't see anything. I didn't experience anything. I didn't feel anything. But many people have reported this cemetery as having hauntings, in particular related to the Bronze Lady statue. So the legend of the Bronze Lady is quite interesting. It was a statue created by the sculptor Andrew O'Connor for Anne Thomas. And Anne Thomas was married to General Samuel Thomas, who was a Civil War general and hero. And after the Civil War, he went on to make quite a bit of money in coal and railroad. He died in 1903, and Anne wanted to honor him and all that he had accomplished, so she contracted the statue. And it's reported that Anne was not happy with the statue when it was created. So the statue is a bronze lady who sits on a bench looking very kind of like despondent. Um, she said that it was too dismal and depressing and wanted a happier expression on the statue. So O'Connor apparently made a second head and to look very happy and content and brought it to her, and she wanted this change made in the statue. And it is reported that O'Connor destroyed the happy head in front of her, smashed it, and was very insulted by the fact that she didn't care for his statue the way it is. So the legend goes that the statue is cursed due to this disrespect she showed to the statue itself. So somehow this cursed the statue. So there's many, many stories about this bronze lady that sits at the mausoleum where this general is laid. Version one says that if you sit, and this is really kind of funny. If you sit in the bronze lady's lap, jump down, spin around 3 times, and then look up at her, you will be cursed. So who would do that? I don't know. It's almost like the you go into the bathroom and turn off the light and whisper Bloody Mary or something into the mirror. Version two of the legend says if you touch the statue's face, you've invited the curse upon yourself. Version three is if you insult the statue, you will end up with bad luck. So, according to legend, the statue will come to life at night and will stroll the cemetery. People have reported seeing a lady strolling the cemetery. If you get close enough, you can hear the statue weep. If you sit on the lap, there's tears of blood that will come from the eyes. If you physically insult it, you're cursed for life. And apparently, the most experienced thrill seekers that have come to the cemetery will run screaming after a bronze lady encounter. Apparently, that's the report. The most experienced thrill seekers will run screaming after the bronze lady's encounter. So, it's quite interesting. Now, I did see the bronze lady statue, of course. It's part of the ghost walk, right? I didn't hear any weeping. I certainly didn't sit on the lap, turn around 3 times, slap the face or whatever. There are stories of young kids who would, your young kids, your teenagers will go into the cemetery and will do things like that. And then all of a sudden, I think there's a story of some kids that went and kicked the shins of the bronze lady and then running away, roots from trees like popped out and tripped them and, things like that. I don't know, it's the kind of thing. There are some statements from the cemetery's manager or whatever that won't deny or collaborate any of the stories. They just said there could be some scientific reason why there's some red that comes out of the eye, could be environmental, things. I don't know. There could be some environmental reasons why you hear weeping sounds at times. So it must be commonly reported. I do know that Washington Irving himself is laid to rest in that cemetery. Now, if you remember, he's the one that wrote the story of Ichabod Crane and the Headless Horseman, which is all set in Sleepy Hollow. And there are stories of seeing orbs and hearing sounds and stuff around his cemetery grave. Now, Heather, you've been to the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, correct?
I have. Yeah.
Did you have
Totally different
experience there?
interactions.
Did
Yeah.
you?
When we were up at the oh, I can't think of her name. The millionaire's tomb or crypt. I can't think of her name. She was famous, but her whole crypt is all stained glass all the way around the top of the New York skyline. And a famous actress, I believe, or an entrepreneur, I can't remember, but we were standing there admiring the crypt, and all of a sudden, in my left ear, I could hear her she walked up and she went, "Hello." And it was like nobody was there. The person I was with was on the other side of the crypt inspecting the stained glass, and definitely felt like this hand on my shoulder. And it was just really exciting because I think anybody that admires her crypt, she feels attached to, because it was the whole New York skyline was or the whole part of New York for her was really important to her. I really wish I could remember her name. She has since passed. Maybe we could look it up while Ryan's talking.
I wish I had had an experience. I'm trying to, I didn't feel anything. Usually I'm the feeler or, just get those images, but I didn't. And aside from it being at night and walking through a cemetery at night, you kind of had those kind of like, ooh, something's going to happen feeling. But I can't commiserate any of the reports. I can't, it was cool. It was cool to hear the stories, that's for sure. But yeah, my friend didn't get shoved, so that didn't happen there.
Well, that's
So
good.
yeah. And then being that I love New York City and that's my city, I love New York City, going to New York City, I wanted to definitely kind of give a little information about one of the places in New York City that is known to be haunted, and that is the Dakota. The Dakota is a residence. It's found on 1 West 72nd Street. It's a Gothic style building and it was opened in 1884. It's one of the most exclusive residences in Manhattan and also is considered to be one of the most haunted. This is the outside of the Dakotas where John Lennon was murdered. If
Hmm.
you remember, I don't, you probably don't remember that because maybe you weren't born. That was back in December 8th, 1980. Okay. So Ryan wasn't born yet, but I remember that. And
I remember hearing about it.
yeah, and what, Heather, you were all of 7 years old, maybe? Okay. So I was a teenager then. But anyway, I remember this happening. And since his murder happened there, you do know who John Lennon is, though, right?
Oh,
You're
yes.
you did know.
Yes.
Okay. Yoko Ono, his wife, has reported seeing his ghost at the White Piano in their residence because they live there. Um, John Lennon himself has also reported seeing a crying lady ghost within the Dakota, and other ghosts that were witnesses by residents of the Dakota are a playful girl in a yellow dress, a very creepy looking short guy wearing a very bad wig, apparently. Of course, there's reports of phantom footsteps, mysterious voices, also objects that have been moved. Seeing objects moving has been reported in Dakota. Um, this is also the location, if you can think back or know anything about old films, the Rosemary's Baby was filmed there. That's a film that came out when I was younger, which was a horror flick. Um, so it's just an interesting thing. The Dakota is probably in the top 3 or top 4 haunted sites of New York City. Um, it's you definitely get a vibe when you go by there. You definitely get a vibe when you go by there. Having walked by it. So, uh, maybe it's just because where somebody was murdered outside. I don't think so. I think the reports of the hauntings in the Dakota building are pretty, um, valid. So, a building that's been around that long tends to have a lot of energy, whether it's intelligent or residual, it's probably a mixture of both. But I just found those, one, a place where I grew up, a place where I visited, and then one in my beloved city of New York City. So, I was happy to share those. There's plenty other places to talk about too in New York. We didn't even get out of the metropolitan area. When you go, in upstate New York, all different places. I think there's like a railroad station in Buffalo and different places like that. So I found it fascinating.
Hmm.
Um, so why don't we go down the coast? Ryan, what did you discover in New Jersey?
Well, actually, before we get into this, just for our listeners, I have a follow-up question. Can we talk more about the difference between, I've heard you both say this now, intelligent energy versus residual. So, what is the difference between that?
So residual energy is energy that's trapped and it happens again and again. Something that's been going on for a while. So like if I mean, you get this a lot, I think, in battlefields and things like that. The energy of soldiers walking a certain path. You get this with like old houses. If you had servants in there, servants that continue to go up and down, you know, um, staircases and things like that, that are just they've done it so often that that energy is imprinted in the environment. So it happens again and again. It won't interact with you.
Hmm.
Won't interact with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Versus the other energy, they would actually interact with you. Okay.
Yep, they touch or they'll talk to you, or all your five senses become elicited, or one of them will become elicited, and you'll know you're having an interaction with someone from the other side, a spirit energy. So it can happen with any of your sensories. And so that becomes an actual intellectual connection because it's having some form of reaction with you. Like the woman in New York, she touched my shoulder, right? So that's an
Mm-hmm.
actual intelligent touching. Where if she was just standing there looking at her crypt, it might have been residual.
Mm.
When we do our readings and we connect as mediums with people who have gone, who've passed on, that's an actual intelligent interaction
Mm-hmm.
because we're getting messages back and forth. Mhm.
Hmm.
But if we go to like a haunted spot or um, and we sense energy and we try to interact and we get nothing, it's most likely residual.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if it's the same thing that happens again and again. When you hear things like, yeah, we see a lady in white walking down this staircase. It's reported by everybody. It
Mm-hmm.
happens every, at night kind of thing. It's probably residual.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both
Good
for
question.
clarifying that. Yeah. No, I'm glad we discussed that before we get into more hauntings and spirits and you name it, interactions. Um, yeah, so I found just a
Well,
couple
Lisa,
places.
not to interrupt,
No, go
Brian.
ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, let me interrupt for 1 second.
Sure.
So the bronze lady is not Leona Hemsley, is it,
No. The
Lisa?
bronze the bronze lady is a statue that was commissioned by Anne um, to honor her husband. Um, and so the statue was created. It's put outside the mausoleum of her husband to sit there in honor of him. And she apparently didn't like the demeanor on it, and the artist had a hissy fit over that, was insulted, as I can see that happening.
Hmm.
Um, and so the bronze lady is now cursed and is known to come alive at night and walk the cemetery. I'm going to say that most likely hearing the sounds of weeping might happen by the bronze statue. Um, it might be the weeping of Anne herself that was trapped inside that, metal holds on to energy. So being made of metal, it could hold that energy. So that you might hear the weeping of the widow. Um, I'm going to say that the woman that people see walking the cemetery is maybe not the bronze statue. It's probably a different spirit. Um, to me, that makes more sense than a statue coming to life. So,
Hmm.
I do believe though that the bronze lady statue is affiliated with Leona Hemsley, and I looked it up. Leona Hemsley is the one that has the crypt in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery with literally the skyline of New York, and she was notoriously known as the Queen of Mean. I guess she was a ruthless and very controversial person, but also a real estate mogul. And um, I believe that that crypt and the Bronze Lady statue is affiliated with each other. I believe,
Hmm.
and the rumor is that because she was so mean that she walks around and like I don't know, moans, talks, whatever. Maybe she's even weeping. What what are you thinking that the bronze statue is not Leona Hemsley?
I don't think the bronze statue is Leona Hemsley. I think because it was created in 1903, um, after the general died by the sculptor for that widow. And it sits outside his mausoleum. That's where it was. It wasn't
Okay.
her crypt. I do think that the woman who walks the cemetery could be Leona Helmsley for sure.
Right. And the woman that the statue is Anne Thomas, so totally different. So yeah, you might be there might be dual experiences happening between the bronze lady, Leona Hemsley. There's some really other famous people in the Sleepy Hollow
Oh, Washington Irving
cemetery.
himself. Washington Irving
Sure, all the
himself.
Rockefellers are there.
I'm
Absolutely.
gonna say the legend of the bronze lady coming to life and walking the cemetery is probably not correct. I'm gonna say that the woman walking the cemetery is not the bronze lady because the bronze lady was never an actual person.
Yes. And I apologize for cutting you off, Ryan.
No worries. No, I'm glad we're having this discussion about it, and that's interesting. That yeah, it seems like there's two different things happening that is just kind of morphing into one story. So,
I think that can happen a lot with hauntings. I do think there's like certain things get kind of like blurred
hmm
and combined, and it makes a grander story, maybe. And that's why we call it legends or folklore, you
hmm
know. Um, these hauntings and experiences are only as good as the experience you yourself have, right? Or the experiences of somebody that you trust has, right? Um, so it becomes story or it becomes legend or folklore. Yeah, it's really kind of interesting. I'd be curious to know once we're done with our Haunted USA series, so to speak, which locations our listeners are now intrigued to go visit
hmm.
because of it. So, yeah. All right, New Jersey. What's up in New Jersey?
So, yeah, in New Jersey, I just found a couple inns. Um, I found them intriguing. So this first one is called I think the Cranberry Inn. It was originally established in 1780 after the colonies declared independence from the British. The taverns were originally built in the mid 1700s as a place for colonial travelers to eat, drink, refresh their horses, spend the night. The current owners, they have had the inn for the past 25 years, and they said that they have had dozens of ghost hunters visit in hopes of communicating with spirits. Um, According to the inn's website, it was also a rumored stop on the Underground Railroad. So some of the people have been interested in just stopping by to see if they could pick up some energy. According to one of the owners, strange things have been happening over the years. For instance, there was a pregnant employee who was just walking through the inn, and the doors would just open up for her as she was walking through. Other staff members insist that they get like telepathy messages warning them to like turn off, the lights and or other fixtures that have to be turned off in case of a fire. So they're saying that when psychics or paranormal ghost hunters come in, the owners have said that the psychics say that the ghosts are friendly and that they're not here to cause harm or trouble or scare you or anything. Instead, that the ghosts love being there, and that's why they're attached to the inn. So, I guess my question open for discussion for this story here is: do spirits sometimes enjoy where they are, and is that why they stay in that location?
Um,
I found this fascinating that they're actually friendly and like wanting to help out. Like
I
that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
I do feel that yeah, some spirits hang around because they totally enjoy the family that's there or the place that they are, or the place they used
hmm
to live. Um, I think that can happen.
But it doesn't necessarily mean they didn't cross over. A lot of spirits cross over and become part of that, heavenly body, quote, quote. And then they come back because they love their home or they love the people or, and they need to say sorry. Like there's all different emotions that go around with why they may come back and stay, or just come back and visit too. So, uh, which I guess could be a haunting, right? It
Yeah.
wouldn't. It would be a intelligent haunting.
hmm
You know, I I also think that I think it's a mistake to assume that most hauntings or spirits that hang around aren't friendly.
Mm,
I think most spirits that hang around don't have negative intention.
right.
I think most that hang around are hanging around out of concern, out of love, compassion, kindness. I don't, at least that's been my experience,
hmm
you know, or attachment. Sometimes they're just attached. It's not negative or positive. They're just attached. They
hmm
like where they are
Hmm.
and they like to be left alone.
Yeah, I really liked how in this instance with this and the the spirits there, they're just helping out, and that's probably why they just enjoy being there. They probably enjoy, perhaps the new owners too. Who knows? And so they just want to help out, make sure that everyone's taken care of. Um, I thought that was pretty cool, especially, I mean, warning the employees like, "Hey, turn that off." Like you don't want to have a fire. So that's pretty cool. The second place that I looked up, it's they call it a historic village at, I think, Allaire. It's in Farmingdale, New Jersey. So this village was originally a Native American ceremonial ground prior to 1650, and later on it was established as a bog iron-based production facility. Uh, James Allaire purchased the facility in 1822, eventually turning it into a community for the workers and their families. Eventually, he moved his own family into a large farmhouse on the property in 1832. Then his wife passed away in 1836. He was devastated by that. Um, so, because of all that, there have been some accounts saying that people have been hearing sobbing from inside his home. They have also seen a tall figure dressed in funeral attire and a top hat that they think is him. Another spirit that they have reportedly cited is said to be Hal Allaire, who was the son of James and his second wife. And they say that the spirit of the son has been known to hide household objects and interact with the candles. So I guess my question here was, can spirits really hide objects? My grandmother and I, we used to joke about this, like, oh, the spirits hid this, like that's why I can't find it. But can they hide it, and then can it reappear, or I don't know. Just found that fascinating, so I wanted to ask that.
Happens to me all the time.
Okay, yeah,
All the time.
yeah.
I'll go looking for, usually it's keys or a credit card that maybe I put on the counter and didn't put right away, or my glasses sometimes. Glasses are harder to find because I'm literally kind of blind without them. But and I will just get looking, and then I realize, okay, I didn't lose them.
Mm.
Who's ever with me is playing a nice little trick. So I'll just say, I'm done. I'm going to leave the room. When I come back, they better be here. And the keys are where I asked them to be. So explain that.
Yeah.
They definitely hide things for sure. I know they've hidden stuff on you too, Heather.
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
All
It's like
the time.
the favorite party trick to do, I think.
It's, huh?
Favorite party trick of spirits is to hide your shit.
Yeah.
Oh, stuff.
I'm positive of that. But it's true. Like, it's not just keys. Like, one slipper is like randomly in another room, like no business being in the healing room because all the shoes go next to the door. Like, oh yeah, random stuff is always moving around. Um, it's quite it's quite frustrating because normally when they move stuff, it's because you got to get out the door and you got to be somewhere. And this is where we kind of take on that ancient proverb of like, okay, maybe spirit's trying to slow me down for a reason, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's so repetitive. You're like, ah, ah. Do we
I have myself like search through my pocketbook for something and it's not there, right? Dump it out, go through everything, not there, put it all back in. And my husband will do the same thing. Oh, usually it's the keys. Nope, they're not in there. And he's just like, all upset with me because when I finally have my little moment and say, you better put them back where I left them, go through my purse, there they are again.
Wow.
And both myself and my husband have looked through my pocketbook. So, those kind of things, they do really happen. So I would believe that if objects are being moved. And you said playing with candles,
Correct.
like the flame when they're on.
Yeah.
I mean, that could just be air current,
That's what I was thinking
explained
too.
why by
Yeah.
air current, but I have seen spirits interact with things like a fire in a fireplace.
Mm.
Of course, candles, it's hard to say it's spirit because you could have air current, particularly in an older house that might have drafts, but they do play with electronics. They do
Mm-hmm.
flicker lights and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would believe it.
Yeah.
I would
So
definitely believe it.
yeah, I
So,
found it interesting too that they saw the tall man with the wearing a funeral attire and still devastated about his wife. So hmm.
Most of these old homes in New England, not just Connecticut or
Hmm.
Massachusetts, like throughout New England, right? I mean, back in what, the 1800s, 1700s, probably sooner, your funeral was held in the living room.
Oh.
You were you were received in the living room, and people would come in with baked goods, and they would have the procession that would go through the home. There was no such thing as a quote unquote funeral home,
Hmm.
especially in early centuries. So a friend of mine, his mother owns a very, very, very old colonial home, and it's on the historical list, and it's on big piece of property that has ties to kind of swampland, myth and lore. And when you walk into this home, you immediately can see the post and beams in the living room. Like, the house is very old colonial, but like every now and then you'll catch the funeral pyre of like the man who lived there, and like the wife sitting over in the corner with full garb on, the Victorian black dresses or the big cats. And it's just incredible because it's not it's a residual, it's not an intellectual. Like, you just walk in and it kind of makes you jump for a second or blink because you're like, is that a dead man laying across the, okay, it is, all right. So it kind of takes you back because you're expecting to walk into the living room where their TV now hangs and there's a console underneath it. But when you look over real fast, sometimes you'll catch the coffin of the gentleman who owned this home. So it happens
Hmm.
all over, anywhere colonial. It wouldn't just be New England either. I mean, you can think about folklore of Savannah, Georgia, right? Charlotte, North Carolina. Like, they
sure,
all have old homes.
sure, yeah. Yeah,
Good
I
point.
mean that was the tradition,
Hmm.
and even the tradition of like I find it very creepy, but they would have photographs done of babies and children when they were dead.
Hmm.
I'm like, ugh, you see these photos like that baby is dead.
Hmm.
Ugh, it's creepy to me, but this was the tradition, right? And this was what was done.
Death photos.
Yeah, death photos. Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
go to
I find that
several, you
creepy.
can go to antique stores. Yeah.
Hmm.
I find that creepy. I wouldn't want one of
And
those in my house.
And it's fascinating how history has evolved, right? Like, originally, death photos were the little black cutout of paper of your silhouette and on the wall. And then as time progressed, they were able to imprint on glass, and they would like purposely push, the baby's mouth up into a smile and like take their picture. And you can still go to antique stores and actually find old glass film with, yeah, your
That's what.
deceased babies on it. And I know that was their way of honoring their children, but in this day and age, we've kind of turned that into a taboo, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But so this place was on Native American ceremonial ground, you said?
Let's see. Yes.
And there were no reports of any kind of like Native American sightings or
Yeah, they didn't say about that. They're mostly just saying about the gentleman who owned it and what happened after his wife passed, and yeah. But I could dive more deeply into that and see if there is anything.
I
I
mean
would be
it
Yeah,
interested.
absolutely.
I just think that when sometimes when Native American land that it was used for ceremony and stuff like that, that there might be something there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It just seems like I hear about that a
Mm-hmm.
lot. So I'm surprised that there wasn't a report of that, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're mostly just talking about the um, let's see, like the inn itself and the farmhouse and how like that specific building had, you know, his spirit and then the son, and that was the interaction there. But Yeah, I'll have to look into it and see if there's anything because I agree with you. I was curious about that. It was just kind of like brushed upon, Okay, yeah, it was on Native American ceremonial ground. Okay, like so.
That's very common for up until recently, where a lot of Native American information is swept under the rug. So,
Mm,
yeah, I'd be interested in anybody that's listening to our podcast who knows maybe a little more information on the Native American side of the history of that,
mm.
just to hear that story. So call in, write in. Um,
So was that all for New Jersey?
Yes. Yep.
Let's then head over to Pennsylvania. What'd you find, Heather?
Goodness gracious, Pennsylvania. All right, we love you guys, but lots of rich history, obviously, only because Pennsylvania is affiliated with Gettysburg, right? We have the major battlefield of Gettysburg down there, and which is now by many ghost hunters that I've listened to podcasts and talked to people who have been to Gettysburg. And for all our listeners, please, if you've been to Gettysburg battlefield, please write in your stories. We'd love to hear them. But a lot of the consensus around the Gettysburg battlefield is that it's all phantom. It's all residual energy. There's no actual touching or intelligent happening, maybe not in the major part of the what's designated as the battlefield now for people to come, but there is complete sign when you go down to Gettysburg, which I have personally witnessed myself. Never had an intellectual conversation with anybody on the field. Actually, my energy was just so nervous that I couldn't wait to get out of there. But that's like part of learning as a psychic, of like learning to keep yourself grounded and keep yourself focused, and like this isn't gonna affect you. You have, but there was lots of phantom gunfire happening. If you sat quietly long enough, you could hear commands being yelled across the kind of the field, and you can hear. I didn't hear any marching, but people have said they heard marching. One of the If you just sit still and be, you will definitely see soldiers appearing and vanishing like into the tree lines. um, and it's almost like the battle is actually still playing out every day. Like, what was that movie, Groundhog Day, where it's just complete trauma that's imprinted, and like it just keeps rolling as like Groundhog Day. Every day is the same thing. But there's so much lore, there's so much around that. If you don't know about Gettysburg, definitely, if you're into ghost hunting, that's definitely the one place you can actually have an experience, and nobody would actually say you're crazy, because I think even people who are not in tune with psychic senses have definite impressions happen. I was really fascinated by the intelligent haunting. It's called the Farnsworth House, and the Farnsworth House um, has intelligent hauntings, which I like. I like going to places that have intelligent hauntings, because then you can maybe pick up a piece of history that you didn't read about, or maybe you get something personal. But the Farnsworth House was owned by General Elon John Farnsworth, and he was somebody who really kind of led the ill-fated charge, and it ended up in a disaster, a failure. But he was part of the Pickett's charge, and it claimed lots of lives. But the original part of the house, the Farnsworth House, was built in 1810, which then followed kind of some of that brick structure of the 1800s, which is so beautiful, like that old style building of brick. But the house sheltered Confederate sharpshooters, and during a 3-day conflict, this house saw tragedy. It saw massive tragedy. It struck and killed the wife of Elon Farnsworth, and it also consumed Mary Virginia Wade. She was a civilian at the time, and like so, like the house was riddled with bullet holes. I've never been to this, but the house was also a hospital. So this house truly saw some major kind of trauma. And what was even more famous for the Farnsworth house is that Lincoln's procession in November 19th, right? 1863, it went right through this whole Gettysburg area address. And so it's got quite the historic value. And so you can understand why this would probably be a intelligent interaction, but people do comment when they come out of there that they've been physically touched, that they've been pushed, they could feel tugging on their clothes. It's there's a lot of claims through the research that people can actually sense like the spirits are walking with them through the rooms, and having some kind of very interactive awareness with whoever's in there. So I found that really fascinating. I love old homes, and always amazing to find a historical home with so much rich and intelligent history. And literally, I think with Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, we could probably spend more than 5 episodes on such the rich and luscious spiritual huntings that are out there. Of course, the one that everybody talks about also in Pennsylvania is the Eastern State Penitentiary, right? Everybody talks about how the penitentiary has voices and they respond to the visitors. Right. They also talk about how they're touched and certain cells are definitely haunted. There's also kind of that there is residual energy there as well. So it's kind of a mixed emotional kind of turmoil that goes on there, but there's a lot of stories of people just walking into certain cells and having like immediately heavy emotions, or they become uncommunicative emotionally because they feel very uncomfortable in their body. They feel spiritually unsafe in their body, which raises all the flags of like something's not right. I find that quite interesting. And I believe there's a lot of old jails throughout history, whether it's the United States or foreign jails, where you're going to find lots of different uh, intelligent and residual energy.
So I've actually visited the Eastern State Penitentiary. Shocker, another trip with my friend, and we did the ghost walk through the Eastern State Penitentiary. And I can definitely collaborate or confirm that feeling of heaviness walking into a cell. You are led through the penitentiary. You are allowed to go in and out of certain cells. Um, and I remember walking in one and feeling almost like desperation is a feeling, like desperation of help. I need to get out, desperation. I felt that inside the cell. I didn't hear any voices, but when we were out in the prison yard, I definitely could sense a lot of energy moving around in the prison yard. And I'm wondering if that was some of the residual energy of just inmates out in among the yard. I felt that there was, and I think I had a quick glimpse, but of a group of inmates together, and then it dissipated. But I do remember having that feeling of heaviness inside one of the cells. So I can definitely confirm that. Yeah. So interesting. But and as far as the battlefields, you talked about the Gettysburg.
Did you happen to catch any whispering voices calling names?
No, didn't hear anything, didn't see any shadows, just the heavy feeling. But you have to remember, audient and clairvoyance isn't really my go-to psychic sense. I'm a feeler and I'm just a knower. Um, and so I tend to sense the energy more than see it. But I will tell you, you talked about the battlefields, the Gettysburg battlefields. My when my children were young, we went to Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia. It's not Pennsylvania, in Virginia, and we did visit a battlefield when we were there. We went to, I think it was the Petersburg National Battlefield. So it's not a super well-known one, but it was in the Civil War. It's actually one of the longest battles, apparently. I don't know, or sieges or whatever. And I do remember going through that battlefield. So my oldest was really into history, and he did like Civil War and things like that in the battlefield. So we went to the battlefield more for him, and I do remember sensing like, that residual energy that happens at a battlefield. That was kind of interesting for me, you know, but really
It's
cool.
quite at first, just to speak at it personally, stepping onto the fields of Gettysburg or any field that has had some kind of conflict, whether it was, Native American war or English war, British war, whatever it may be, there's something that really just kind of makes you stop for a second, right? It really kind of humbles you that these people suffered for us to be here today. If you can take a step back for a second and just like remember, like, yeah, ghost stories of Gettysburg, but what really happened there is almost mind blowing. And when you can like step into that, it's a little unnerving at first, but once you get like you're grounded and your filter, like there's so much to be seen, heard, felt in a positive way, even though it's a tragedy. Um, and I think the history is just fascinating, and it's getting lost to time as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
It must also feel surreal to be stepping onto these battlefields. And I haven't had a chance yet to go out to these battlefields, but I'd like to eventually. But it just must be surreal to just be be in that environment and to just be picking up on all this energy, seeing, hearing. I can only imagine what it's like. But also, it's kind of like you get to revisit a taste of history as well. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, piece of history that we weren't involved in. So and our generation, right, Ryan, and even some of Lisa's generation, we haven't been on our own soil. We haven't had any intense fighting, right? We haven't experienced a war tragedy. So like this is old. This is a feeling that we need to reconnect with and understand that, so many people before us brought us here. And like the fighting has changed too for over centuries, right? Because our military has gotten bigger and stronger and whatnot. So to think that these people were using lead bullets and cannon, like so primitive, right? And like that's raw carnage, when you're stepping onto these fields, versus like our newer age wars, right? So it's really worth, if you want to connect spiritually and understand sorrow and heartache, but pride as well, because pride came out of that. Um, you know, Definitely go sit with a wounded soldier and let them tell you give you the story.
Mm, yeah. Well,
Isn't part of Nathan Hale here, Homestead here in Connecticut, is the where the home is that considered battleground property, or is the battleground area down more towards downtown Coventry, Connecticut?
no, that's a good question. I thought the homestead was just the homestead. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's on battle property, but I'm not totally sure. We can definitely kind of uh check that out. But I thought the homestead was just the homestead.
Okay, that's definitely something we're going to check out, and then maybe we can take a ride and actually, instead of driving to Gettysburg, Ryan, you can step on a Coventry, Connecticut battlefield.
There you go.
Yeah.
That'd be
Uh,
cool.
Well, so this was great for our part one. In part two, we can maybe venture a little bit more into either one of these states or bring in Maryland and Delaware and other Mid-Atlantic states too that we can maybe check out as well in our part two. So hopefully you can tune into that. And just so you know, for our Patreon listeners, there will be extended versions of both our New England throughout our Haunted USA series that you can find on Patreon for those who are our Patreon subscribers. I have an affirmation for us.
Awesome.
Are you ready? It's one that's, I don't know. It goes like this. I am in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. There's one for
Love
confidence.
it.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Right place at the right time doing the right thing. So if you're kind of like wishy-washy about something, just know. Right place, right time, right thing. So there you go. So thank you everyone for joining us at Ready to Connect. We look forward to our next session when we can all be together again. So until next time, let's get ready to connect.
Thank you for tuning in to Ready to Connect. If you're interested in exclusive behind-the-scenes content, be sure to like, share, and follow us on social media by searching for Ready to Connect Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And for those looking to further support our podcast, consider subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/readytoconnectpodcast. And until next time, get ready to connect.